welcome to my review for Star Wars. Star Wars is a movie that started the whole Star Wars franchise. Now, leading up to Star Wars Rogue One, I am reviewing every single Star Wars movie. I've said Star Wars like 8 times in the last few seconds. I'm reviewing every single Star Wars movie leading up to Rogue One. I just reviewed episode 1, 2, and 3, link in the description below to find those reviews. And in these coming weeks, I will be reviewing the Holiday Special, episode 5, episode 6, and a re-review of episode 7. So, to go with this one, when I started watching this movie, before I started watching it, this was my absolute favorite of the original trilogy. I loved this one, and I gotta say, I still hold true to that. This movie is so awesome. So, in case you don't know, it follows the story of a young guy named Luke Skywalker, who is living on a small farm until he comes in contact with 2 droids. Now, one of the droids, R2-D2, has a message that he displays to him that he decides to go off to try to figure out. So, from there, he's whisked away into this giant world of Star Wars. So, I just gotta say that this movie is undeniably... I love Star Wars. I love it so much. This movie is so fantastic, and I refuse to call it even A New Hope because, I mean, every single movie that's come out ever, I've always wanted the title of the movie just to be what comes after the colon, and George Lucas just decided to rename them all so that he had to have the franchise name in there. But just calling this one Star Wars is a great name for it, and I absolutely love it. I mean, right off the bat, you get 3 things about this movie. 1, the score is fantastic. John Williams, bravo. I mean, this is honestly one of the greatest scores of all time. Other than The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, I would definitively say that this is the greatest score ever put to film. Every single song fits with the movie. Every single song is iconic nowadays. And you want to know why? Because they're catchy songs. They're songs that you can listen to, and they're fantastically written and performed songs. I mean, it's hard to go anywhere without hearing the Star Wars theme now. People use it as a, oh, someone's coming in the house. So it's an icon legend, and it's understandable why. 2, right once the movie starts, you can tell, oh, these special effects actually don't look bad. I mean, even like coming out from the 70s, this movie was noted for being a fantastic sci-fi and for the fantastic effects, and they still look fantastic. Something that the first Star Trek movie did horribly was only focus on the special effects practically and have a super duper weak story. But this one, the special effects, I mean, they don't focus on them, but they still look fine to today's standards, which is shocking. They don't look awful or crummy or outdated, and honestly, I'm not sure if they ever will. And 3, what you get right away, well, maybe not right away, but a few minutes in, Darth Vader is one of the best villains ever put to film. Period. He may even be the best, but that's a whole nother debate for another time, but he is so fantastic. From the moment he comes on screen, you can tell, oh god, this guy is menacing, and he absolutely is. He is threatening. He kills people or he threatens to kill people by choking them just because they disagree with him on something. He is a haunting villain, and he has, spawned so many nightmares for so many of us, so many Star Wars fans out there watching this as a little kid. They were terrified of Darth Vader, and I was too. Going on from that, the fact that they opened this movie with C-3PO and R2-D2 is absolutely genius. Many of you don't know that actually George Lucas got that inspiration from The Hidden Fortress, which I did also watch before watching this one, which I do have to say is also a great movie. But he got the idea of opening on 2 characters that are side characters and not the main characters of the story from The Hidden Fortress. And The Hidden Fortress did it fantastically, and this movie does it even better. When they open with C-3PO and R2-D2, you don't really know much about these characters, but it's perfect seeing this giant, vast universe through their eyes. It's done so well. Also, the world building is so great. There's never really a scene where a character sits down and says, okay, this is Tatooine. On Tatooine, it is mostly filled with sand. They don't have a close-up of Tatooine and say, Tatooine, this planet has blank, 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 and blank, blank, blank. And they don't have anything stupid like that. They just show you the world and let your mind be open to it, and let your mind say, oh, okay, I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I don't like this or this or this. But everything every single detail is just shown so well on screen. There's rarely a scene of exposition in this movie, and when there is, it's about the story and never, ever about what happens in the world, which is, I gotta compliment George Lucas on that. He did such a great job with that. He just did a fantastic job of building this magnificent world that is still seen today, that a lot of people really, really like, and I wish that I could be in the Star Wars universe so bad. It's also a movie that's really, really hard not to like. I'd be hard-pressed to find a reason to, well, I mean, I do have one issue with the movie, we'll talk about that later, but I'm hard-pressed to find a certain person that doesn't like this movie because it's so enjoyable, it's so entertaining. I mean, it's pure entertainment at its finest. I mean, the pacing in the movie, too, I mean, it goes by like that. It's a 2-hour movie that feels like 30 minutes. It's so well done, and that's because it's so entertaining. You're enthralled in what happens right once the movie starts, and this movie is absolutely an experience. Even if you're watching this movie on a TV and not in theaters, it's still an experience. You can sit down and watch it and just go, whoa, this is awesome. And I got to see it at the Star Wars Marathon last year, which was so incredible, and just watching it on screen is such a great experience, but even watching this at home is also fantastic. So I also have to bring out brief moments with the characters. Now look, all these characters are awesome. There's not a single one that I don't think was put to screen without the intention. Well, I mean, I guess there's a couple characters that have one line that aren't that cool, but besides that, practically every character in this movie is so interesting, and I believe the reason for that is because of the small moments that they have. I mean, there's a scene where Luke is, after his aunt and uncle are burned to death, he sort of looks away from it and looks back just to show that he is a hurt character. Little things like that. Also, when Obi-Wan first sees Leia on the projection of the message that was given to R2-D2, you're like, whoa. Because he has this little moment where he sees Leia, and he's like, wow, that's the person that I knew when they were a little baby, and now they're all grown up. And it was a fantastic little moment like that that almost made him have this grandfather feel, which sort of, you know, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure everyone's seen this movie, but if you haven't, just go off from here, I'm going to talk spoilers. When Obi-Wan dies, that is such a more emotional, impactful scene because you see him, because he's this fatherly figure that you begin to like and begin to grow with, and he just dies on screen. That was such a fantastic story mechanism, and in fact, the script in this movie, now look, yes, the dialogue is crummy at times, and it's not very well written, but a lot of the decisions that they make in this movie were great. There's not a single scene that I can point out and say, that scene should not have been in there, unless you're watching this special edition and you have that really stupid scene with Jar Jar Binks, sorry, not Jar Jar Binks, but Jabba the Hutt and Han Solo. That just, if you're watching the special edition, when that scene comes up, just press skip. That's what I did, and I skipped straight past that scene, and I was happy. But besides that, in the non-specialized edition, everything in the movie looks really, really good. There's not a single scene that I can point out and say, that scene does not look good. That was a really great moment. Also, I was surprised how dark this movie is. I mean, there are some scenes, I already mentioned the scene where Luke is looking at the burnt up bodies, but even the scenes with Princess Leia, when Darth Vader walks into her cell with the little torture droid, you realize that it closes the door and it cuts away from that scene, but you realize Leia was probably tortured and still did not give away that information, and that right there is another great moment that gives Leia this personality that she is confident, and she does not care if you think that she's a bad person, or you do not care if you try to attack her. She will still stand strong with her beliefs unless you're threatening her entire planet. But yeah, that was such a fantastic moment and really utilizes how dark this movie is. And since the movie is seen through Luke's eyes, a lot of it seems kind of light, and at the same time it seems kind of dark. It was a great mesh of those two genres of darkness and lightness. Also, Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. I mean, just these are some of the coolest things ever put to screen. Han Solo, I mean, he's honestly probably my favorite character from a film ever. I reserve the right to take that back, but I was him for Halloween last year, and that was such a fun costume to be. It's so fun to see the smuggler. He's just this guy who's super confident but realizes that he's not doing too well in life. He has some fantastic one-liners that fit his character perfectly. He is honestly one of the coolest characters ever put to screen, and the Millennium Falcon is also an awesome ship. I mean, I can't even put into words how awesome that ship is, and to see it throughout this entire franchise is so cool. And also the chemistry among everyone is very, very good. The relationships between everyone feels very human and very, very real. And I gotta end it with that fantastic space battle sequence. Everything has been building up to this. It's when, too many movies today and too many movies throughout the history of time don't have any real stakes, but that final scene where they're destroying the Death Star absolutely has some high-level stakes. You realize if they don't do this, the entire galaxy is ruined. Everything is going to be an utter muck, and a lot of these characters are going to die, including Luke Skywalker. And it's a scene with real stakes. It's packed with emotion because they don't try to say, oh, there are all these ships that go in and survive. No, there's one ship that escapes. There's only one ship. Every other character is killed. And I gotta say, there's one special scene that's added through the special edition where Luke and Biggs talk. I believe Biggs is the character's name, but that was a very, very nice scene that also added a lot of emotion because you're like, oh my god, he just died. A character I barely know anything about but I feel emotionally connected to just died. And that scene is intense, it's emotional, it's impactful. That was honestly some of the best filmmaking that I've seen. That final scene where they are attacking the Death Star is so well executed. It doesn't seem too fair to the good guys, it doesn't seem too fair to the bad guys, it seems perfectly fair with everything. And all in all, I gotta say, Star Wars is an awesome movie. I'm so glad to own it on Steelbook, and watching it in Blu-ray just enhanced the special effects. And oh my god, this movie is absolutely fantastic. If you have not seen Star Wars yet, go and watch it right now, because it has pioneered, it completely changed the sci-fi genre for the rest of time. I mean, there are so many movies that model to be like this, that try to be exactly like this, and I gotta give props to George Lucas for creating this fantastic world, and even back to Kurosawa. Thank you, Akira Kurosawa, for making The Hidden Fortress, which inspired George Lucas to make this, that has spawned this giant franchise that I am a huge fan of. I mean, today, you can go into stores, you can go into a bookstore and see, oh, look, Catalyst, a Rogue One novel. You can go into any store, practically, and see a Star Wars figure. There's Star Wars merchandise everywhere, and there's practically no other franchise you can say that about, and that just shows the longevity of Star Wars. It's a timeless story, it's so fantastically done, and Star Wars is a movie I absolutely love. And I don't care if you judge me for giving a movie that is so entertaining this score, but a 9.5 seems like a perfect score to me. Sure, it does have quite a few issues. The acting and the dialogue can be crummy at times, and on the average movie that would bring it down to about a 9. But with Star Wars, not just because of the nostalgia, but the entertainment, some of the fantastic filmmaking, and that final scene just make up for it. Alright, that concludes my review for Star Wars. Pay attention sometime later this week because I will be reviewing the Star Wars Holiday Special, which I have not yet seen, so that should be a fun review. That concludes my review, so what do you think of Star Wars? Comment in the comment section below. I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.